Well, good Sunday afternoon to you. Chris Hare here, the world champion crypto cowboy, and we're going to talk about XRP today. I know everybody's kind of wondering where the bottom is on this coin. Well, we're going to figure it out today. We're going to figure out if there's any kind of upside potential, and we're going to break it down from the hourly chart to the 4-hour to the daily to the weekly chart. So I'm going to give you short and long range targets, and you're not going to want to miss everything that we're going to go over. So go ahead and like, subscribe, tap that bell notification. You're not going to want to miss a single episode. But let's get to work. Starting off with the crypto fear and greed index, came down all the way from 29 to 20 today. That's pretty ugly, guys. We're right back in extreme fear, and that's what I use this chart for. It measures market sentiment, and what I do is I make small spot purchases when we drop into fear. When we drop into extreme fear, I buy a little more. So you're going to see on my BTCC exchange, I've invested about $300 into Solana, Ethereum, Bitcoin. And right now we're down about $3, but dropping into extreme fear, that's my sign to buy a little more. I will do that today. But if you need a good exchange to trade on, BTCC is absolutely amazing. They've got some great specials going on right now. There's no KYC, so you don't have to give them any of your personal information. And they're giving you a 10% bonus up to $100,000 if you use my link to sign up. So if you put in $100,000, you're going to get $10,000 in free money back. So even if you don't trade on the exchange, go get you some free money. It's worth that. You'll find the link in my description. Looking at that altcoin season index, it's relevant since we're talking about ICP. When we get into these Bitcoin seasons, when Bitcoin goes up, altcoins will trickle up. When Bitcoin goes down, alts absolutely tank. We are at a 35. We are nowhere near altcoin season. We need to get up to 60 or 70 and ideally up to 75 to see any kind of good run with these altcoins. So that's where we're at. I think it's kind of dismal right now. We'll get into what's going on. This is a liquidation heat map. I use these before I ever open a trade. This is what market makers use to track your liquidity. And they move the charts to grab your liquidation points on your short and long trade. So everything above price action is a short trade. Everything below price action is a long trade. And you can see cumulatively on a weekly, we've got about $104 million worth of short trades on the books. But to the upside, to the long side, we've got about 6.43 million. And this may have been 10 million, not 100 million. So the imbalance is still to the upside. But you can see there's some bright pockets of liquidity, especially down here around $1.96. And these go all the way down to about $1.91. We'll go ahead and get into the charts. We'll figure out exactly what they're trying to tell us. I start off with an hourly chart. I post these in the crypto school. You'll find a link to that in my description. Line up of great coaches. I post signals there pretty regular. We're short on some things right now that are a couple of 100% in profit. So go ahead and check it out. If you're really serious about trading or investing, you're really going to want to see it. You'll also find a link to that in my description. But we'll start off with this hourly chart. We went up and tried to retest these 50 moving averages that are now below the 1-hour retracement zone. We couldn't get above it, so now we're working down. I think we're headed down to these extensions somewhere around $1.94 to $1.87. When we get there, I have questions if there's any kind of relief rally or not. Right now, I've got this set on the swing low, the Fibonacci's to the upside. So if this goes below about $1.97, I'm going to have to readjust these fibs. But right now, we're looking at 209 to 213 for any kind of upside in the near term. But I really think we're headed down $1.94 to $1.87. I would have traded this. I would have taken a trade off the rejection here. I'd have put a stop loss above this 50 smooth moving average that you see in white, and I would have wrote it down. It would have given you a very good risk reward. Moving out to the 4-hour, I know the chart's kind of tight here, but I want to show you what I think is going on. We're still dealing with this wick back from the flash crash back on Friday, October 10th. I've always told you guys that market makers like to fill 50 to 80% of those wicks out. You can see since we've had that flash crash, we've never been able to break above this 50 smooth moving average that's in white and find any kind of considerable run upside. We just rejected it back on last Tuesday, and now we're headed down. You do have a pocket of a bullish order block sitting here at about $1.91. If we can bounce out of that, we've got to get up above this retracement zone at 198 to 211 to even think about 240 to 271. What I really think's happened is we're coming down to fill this wick out. $1.61 to $1.34, I think, are your longer term targets. but we'll go out to a daily and it'll really explain it for you. We lost that daily retracement zone. We broke below the daily 50s. We've never recovered above them since the flash crash. But now we're working our way down. The daily extension sits between $1.39 and 77 cents. I went ahead and left the weekly golden zone on here as well, just so you could see what's going on. But it really looks like around $1.39 to $1.40 might be a good opportunity to bounce. There is a potential that we push on down to about 77 cents, but I don't want to make that call because the bottom of your weekly golden zone sits at about $1.05. I don't want to make a call for any more further downside until we figure out exactly what's going on. If we can stay inside of this pennant and finish off and bounce at around $1.39, then I think we can work our way up. You're going to have to get over these 50 moving averages wherever they sit. I kind of figure they'll probably be closer to about $1.88 when we get there. But then these Fibonacci's are in play, 274 to 315, and then 432 up to about 515. That's a longer way out. I think we've got a couple of months before we think about that, or even a few weeks, but that's where we are for now. Looking at the weekly, it kind of reiterates that story. We're headed down to fill that wick out. The 50 smooth moving average on the weekly sits at about $1.86. If we can bounce off of that, then I think 276 to 318 are in play. We're going to have to get over this daily 50 moving average, sits about 256. It's a weekly simple moving average at about 256 to think about it, but 276 to 318 would be your next target. What has me concerned here is as we've lost that 50 simple moving average and your 200 smooth moving average sits at around $1. That's what we've talked about on the daily. So if we do fill this wick out and go lower, I think $1.03 down to about 85 cents may be a good bounce point. But like I said, I don't want to make those calls yet. I want to see what happens here at about $1.84 and then about $1.61 before we call any more downside or to think about upside. But that gives you a pretty good idea of what's going on with ICP. I know it's kind of messy, but and I think there's more downside, but I think we're building up for some kind of upward move. Maybe this bull market lasts a little shorter than we think, but it could go on and could bleed out and it could get really dismal. But I'll keep alerts on this as we get to key supports and resistances. I'll figure out exactly what's going on and I'll update you as we go along. But I'm Chris Hare, the world champion crypto cowboy. Don't forget to like, subscribe, tap that bell notification, and leave us a comment. It helps the YouTube algorithm, and I really enjoy hearing from you people. But I'm going to wrap it up. I've got some work to do in the Spur shop back behind me. I'll get you a Bitcoin video out later tonight, and I've also got an Ondo video dropping later this afternoon, so you're not going to want to miss that. But like I said, I'm Chris Hare, the world champion crypto cowboy. I really appreciate all of y'all watching, and we'll see you down the road.